Today we're doing skim coat, and all these skim coats that I'm doing is by hand. Some of the locations, some of the area is not necessary to do by machine because either it's too short or too complex. But we're gonna be doing the final skim coat here by hand, and no matter what, at the end of the day, you must learn how to use the hawk and the trowel or the knife, the pot and knife. Um, It's very complicated at this point, but realistically, it's very simple. Complicated meaning, well, there's a lot to go through. What does skim coat mean? What is the point of the skim coat? And I try to tell people that the best way to think about skim coat is when you do your normal joints and stuff on the wall. Well, actually, before I even go that far, let's break it down to what's the point here, and then that might paint a better picture. What's the point? In the beginning, you put the prefill, and the prefill is there as a sense of like security, so that when the wall moves or when any small movement happens, you got something behind there holding this whole thing together. And then you tape it. And again, what's the point of taping? But the taping bonds the house together. It puts the house together as one. And after you tape it and it comes as one, then it's like, well, what am I going to do? Look at all this tape? No. So the next step here is to cover the tape. When you cover the tape, sometimes the first and only one coat, that coat, the second coat, in our world, that's your second coat, um, because you've taped it, and that's sometimes considered as one. The second is the actual covering of the tape, and when you cover the tape, what tends to happen is that there's a lot of like bubble scratches. It's flat. It's flat by all means, but it's not perfect. It looks perfect, but it's not perfect. And from a distance, you'll stand back and be like, "Oh, that's ready." Even most of these pictures that you're looking at now, you're thinking that's ready. Why am I going over it again? And the reason to go over it again with a skim coat is because once you get close to the wall, once the light hits the wall, once you paint the wall, all those bubbles that I talk about, all those little imperfection that sticks in the mud will now appear. They're gonna stand right out. So the idea that you're doing here is not to cover the wall so much. You're not really trying to build up anymore. You've already done the building up already, and that should be your second coat is building up, getting rid of all those imperfections, all those flattening outs. The butt joint should be flat at this point. Your corner bead should be filled and solid almost at this point. So at this point, when you're skimming the wall, all you're really trying to do is pretty up the wall. Just trying to put a pretty layer of mud on the wall to give it a light sand at the end, right? And a detail sand. So because what you're actually gonna do is go over the whole entire wall, you have to sand the whole entire job. Every part of the job must be sanded. So, you know, you don't want your mud too thick. Something to keep in mind. Your mud should be a bit as thin as you can possibly hold it together. That's how I approach it, anyways. I make my mud as thin as I can possibly keep it together on the hawk and the trawl and the mud, as long as I can handle it. That's what I'm looking for. But it needs to be thin, and the reason why it needs to be thin is those holes that I tell you about, those pockets of holes, those pockets of air that exist within the material already. Um, there's got to be some way for the mud to fall into that space, stay in there, and you know make itself very comfortable. If the mud is too thick, what tends to happen is that when you wipe it off, it doesn't go into the hole, it goes over the hole, and then it leaves an air pocket immediately in front of your face. So going through the process of skim coat, something to remember that your mud should be very thin, diluted. That's all you need to do is dilute your mud with more water to a point that you think this is good enough for me to handle it. I've left quite a bit of a wide array of scenarios, ceilings, odd joints. I've left enough scenarios here for you to look at in terms of how does it come, how doesn't it come. And this is only on the wall itself. This is only on the flats and the butt joints. That's all you're looking at today. I'm gonna do another video shortly with the corner bead. Don't expect too much with those. With the corner beads and the three-way, don't expect too much. It's gonna be the exact same idea. Um, of putting a flat layer of mud, very thin, flat layer of mud on the wall for the purpose of making the wall look pretty. That is the entire purpose of this. And with that consideration, with the idea of just making it pretty, um, you want to make your final strokes, you want to make your final lift off the wall to be as clean as possible. And most of what you're looking at here, what I do first is I completely fill the wall with mud. And that means I'm not touching it. Touching the wall is ridiculous. It's gonna leave those characteristics mark, and you don't want those things. You want a complete lift off the wall, right? Just one lift off the wall, so there's less interaction with the wall. Because again, those interactions do show up into the final product. And even though we're just doing flats and butt joints as our main focus today, you should also always be aware that if there's any odd spots, like say for example your nail heads, you can hit them one time because your nail heads do need three. You do need three shots on everything in here. So if you can hit your nail heads while doing this, for example, and then when you come back with your butt joints, you do it again. However, you get the three coats on the nail heads, that's all that really matters. You need three coats on the nail heads. You need them to be um, clean finishes. Again, this is a very hard part. Even though it's simple, it's a hard part of the job. Because as you can see here, for example, I'm taking out some dirt out of the mud. You want to be careful. Little things pop up in your mud. It's just a part of the job. You want to be very careful. You want the place to be well lit. You want to be paying attention to it. And as you can see, as I'm saying, the idea of one stroke. Try and practice to get one stroke from top to bottom, one stroke from top to bottom. So again, you don't have a lot of characteristics mark on the wall. What else is there? Well, sometimes you'll find yourself, if you ran the machine, sometimes you've, oh, well, sorry, here comes the light box. These are things you can do in the meantime. Um, Electrical light boxes are very important because what tends to happen is once the fixture goes on top of it and the light starts, or say for example there's an electrical outlet and it's just a switch or a plug. For example, here's an ideal example: a switch and a plug. What tends to happen is that when you go close to the plug to turn the light on, you'll notice those rough areas around the plug and the lights. You'll notice these little pivots and annoying things. And also this process helps to flatten the wall a bit. If there's a consideration, right? So little areas like those need to be addressed as you go along. It's not just flats and butt joints and corner bead. It's nail heads. It's light switches. It's any imperfection on the wall that needs to be fixed. Now's the time to do it. And here I am doing the nail heads. Like I said, it's very important to do the nail heads because these things are going to show up later on um, when the house is painted, when the work area is completed, and paint is on the wall. These things are going to show up, and doing your job, you don't want to do that type of a work, right? And here I am again checking over just something that's already dry. The inside corner, it's already dry and checked already. We're just checking it again. That's all we're doing. Double check everything. Double check everything. It's good to work in a well lit area, and if you're not working in a well lit area, carry a light with you for for assistance to see what you're doing. In any case, that's most of what I have to say. I think I've covered everything. Maybe I missed something, but it'll happen in the other video where I'll go over that. But you know, um, thin layers of mud. Go over the job slowly. Do one thing at a time, right? And those are the key points. Anyways, have a good day. Support the other videos, and I'll be bringing you more videos in the future. Thanks. Have a great day.